I am Jim Collison, and this is the Wellbeing at Work with CliftonStrengths podcast, recorded on January 20th, 2022. In this CliftonStrengths podcast, we'll look at the strengths, insight, and action planning items from Appendix 1 in the Gallup book, Wellbeing at Work, one theme at a time, and today's theme is deliberative. If you're listening live, love to have you join us in our chat room. There's a link right above me there on our live page. That'll take you to the Google page. Sign in with your Google account and join us in chat. If you're listening after the fact, love to have you send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Dr. Jacqueline Robinson is our host today. She works as a Gallup Learning and Development Consultant, which sounds super important, and is the primary contributor. I'm more proud of you for this, of Appendix 1 in the Wellbeing at Work book. And Jacqueline, always great to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Let's get kicked off with the theme definition. When we think about deliberative, what do we think about?
Yes, we think about someone who is described by the serious care they take in making decisions. This is an individual that tends to anticipate obstacles and risks.
I love that serious care they take making decisions. I think that's a great way to phrase it, by the way. Yeah, indeed. How does that relate to the individual? And then maybe how does that relate to others?
Well, from an individual perspective, someone with deliberative likely feels confident knowing that the life I would say they created is one that is well thought out. Hardships arise, but if they're steering the ship, there's this sense of calm and knowing that, they've identified the least least risky path forward. So sometimes that's what I think of with deliberative. And then how it relates to others, I think when they're given some time and space, and it doesn't have to be lengthy time, so let's get away from that, but just some time and space, others know that they can count on them to anticipate any of the risks and take a thoughtful approach to whatever topic is on the table. And again, that could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be a day, just depending on other themes that also surround it. But that's how I see those two between self and others.
I'm going to try to deploy what little deliberative I have at this point, because I interrupted you in a past podcast on this question. So I'm going to practice as much as I can. Let's talk a little bit about this theme of deliberative when it's thriving, when we think about this idea of thriving and well-being. So what does it look like thriving maybe versus struggling?
I think this person thrives when they're in an environment that honors whatever amount of space they need just to sort through information and identify a path or a plan. Again, with the least risky obstacles or outcomes. And then this person can struggle in an environment where maybe an iterative approach is taken in which they and others are learning along the way, time and time again. And it feels like it's falling flat, or maybe others around them might not be honoring, I would say, a place for them to be able to just take a more thoughtful approach. If you're constantly just deep diving in, and you're building your wings along the way, for some that can just get to be too much.
I don't usually comment on this section. I will, though. I think, we're doing a lot of work around burnout, the Gallup, that concept. And I think this is an area when we think about deliberative and struggling, where ample time, and that time frame can be anything, or the repetition of we've thought through this, but we're still going to do it differently, even though, whatever that might be, this burnout's happening because we lack of hope, loss of control, and repetition of things that are disastrous in some ways. And so I think this is for those high in deliberative, this is a good chance, I think, to do a good check on that. How am I feeling during these times, right? How am I feeling as we were recording this? It's January of 2022. And so I think there's some interesting things with that in some ways. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. We have some examples in Appendix 1 in the back of the book, Wellbeing at Work, as we look at each of the 5 elements, and then a best practices of each of those 4 deliberative in this case. Can you bring one of those out, Jacqueline, and talk about it with us?
Yes. So I wanted to select physical well-being for this one. So this person might appreciate talking to an expert to identify the best options for stress relief, nutrition, and exercise. They won't have confidence in a plan and won't start to continue it unless they've thoroughly studied it and vetted it. Physical well-being.
Yeah, I do like that. I do like that idea and that concept, and I think they have a lot to bring in that particular area. Again, I
Mhm.
often we tend to think of that well-being element fitting into career, and especially we're going to talk about this here in just a second, their involvement in a team. But I
Mhm.
love the way that we have one for each one of these. There's 4 other ones written for deliberative. If you haven't made it your way to the back of the book, they're there and available for you. I think great coaching resources as well. So, Jacqueline, with as we think about deliberative, then with it, how can it be used? And I think this is really important. How can it be used to support others?
Ooh, I like this one. So, if you're a manager or you're leading a team, you can help the team steer clear of obstacles or risks, oftentimes before they even occur, due to the due diligence and thought that you've already placed into that situation or that goal or that expected outcome. If you're on a team, when teams are working in high risk environments that require quick action, this person might have some pre thought out patterns of action that can help navigate or negate risk. So, given even 5 minutes, that could help this person quickly gather their thoughts and express that to the team so that they can move quick. And then as an individual, this person is adept at thinking through things. And again, it doesn't have to mean that they're slow to act, but there's that careful thought and consideration that's placed into, goal setting or situations. So as an individual, when you need that extra boost, start thinking about the colleagues and friends around you who can really inspire you to take it to that next level or to take that first step. This might be if we throw some themes around like your activator or someone with self-assurance. It's like, oh, you've got this. You've thought it through. I know you can do it. And that sometimes is just that one boost you need to just get started.
Mm. I love this idea of there was a billboard here in the Bellevue area where I live, and it said it was for an insurance company, and it said we're bubble wrap for your company.
Oh,
And I
that's good.
right, I
Deliberative.
yeah, it's kind of bubble wrap, and you use the word risk mitigation, which I think is
Hmm.
really really important. And they can be, I think, as you were talking about their role on a team, and they can kind of be bubble wrap for that team. They can kind of protect it and kind of, hey, let's take a moment, even if that's 30
Yeah.
seconds. Let's take a moment to really kind of think through this, and let's deliberate on it for a moment. Think through it, have some conversation. That
Hmm.
deliberation can take on different kinds of forms. But again, somebody with high deliberative is thinking that framework. They're thinking about it all the time to be like,
Hmm.
wait a minute. Should we should we spend a little more time before we move on? And I think it's a great question. It's a great risk
Yes.
mitigation question in that. And so I think they really bring great value to a team from that sense of making sure that you don't have folks like me just rolling.
Build the wings on the way down.
Just
Yeah.
that's it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out when we get there. What should you think about it? Nah. Let's just we'll figure it out as we go. In appendix 2, we have a framework to kind of work through each one of these elements. And I've asked you when we think about deliberative, let's do an exercise with that, Jacqueline. Work us through that framework.
Yes. So I'm going to stick to the physical well being theme for this one in Appendix 2. So, one thing you could ask yourself is where do I need help making progress in my physical well being efforts?
Mm,
Ask your team members what physical well being obstacles do we encounter at work? You have got the skill set to help them think through those obstacles so that well being becomes more a part of the workplace. And then for take action, set positive defaults when you shop for groceries. Load up on natural instead of processed foods. I know some folks will make a list and they'll work their way around the grocery store based on just what's on the outside aisles, which is going to be more of your produce versus the processed foods
mm.
that are in the actual aisle sections. So someone with deliberative, those really called out to me that might be helpful to you as you think about your physical well-being and helping others as well with physical well-being.
I would deploy a good friend, Ryan Wolf. We've had him on the program before, and
Yes.
to share something. Hey, here's what I'm thinking, and I think I'm going to do this today. And he'd be like, "Well, and you have a little bit of time to think about this before we." very gentle about it. We got some time to think about this, or let's talk through it. Or are you dead set on it today?
Mhm.
And in the area of financial well-being, I think that's another great opportunity.
Yes.
Hey, you're thinking this happened when I was young and first married, and I was going to go buy a car, and I had a friend, and I had no business buying a new car at that point. And I had a friend say, "Do you got some time to think this through with me a little bit? Can we?" And he gave me a book, and we spent some time there.
Smart.
Save my bacon from a financial standpoint of like
Yeah.
making the right decision. So I love that
It's a
folks
great
hide.
approach.
Yeah, I think I think there's a superpower in deliberative that we
Mhm.
we just don't look for or use enough. And so folks who have high deliberative, I value you
You are
because
valued.
you don't have it and I don't have it. We definitely need you in these situations. Jacqueline, anything else before I wrap this up?
I think the key thing that we can hone in on here is with deliberative, it's not always about slow progress in moving forward. There's just a thoughtful approach that's taken
Mm,
before acting.
yeah.
That thoughtful approach could take 5 minutes, it could take 5 weeks, it could take a year, just depending on what the situation is and the other themes that surround it. So let's think about that as we speak with our deliberative folks and just honor the space they need, but also ask
Mm.
and just based on situations, how much time might you need to feel comfortable moving forward?
I
Kind of like
think it
futuristic. Sometimes we'll just assume people might be thinking 5
mm,
years ahead, and some futurists are like, "Nope, it's 6 months for me," and others might be like, "It's 30 years." So there's a little bit of that differential that we need to be thinking about with deliberative too.
yeah, and I think even with deliberative, bringing well thought out plans that are ready to go, it's like meals ready to go. You can just pop them in,
Yes.
do them, and go, but they've been thought about, right?
Uh-huh.
They've been smartly thought through, and, so we always appreciate that. Well, with that, we'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we do have available in Gallup Access. Head out to gallup.com/CliftonStrengths. If you're interested in coaching, master coaching, or you want to become a Gallup certified strengths coach, you can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, and we'll get some information out to you as well. You can join us on any social platform just by searching Clifton Strengths and follow that new Clifton Strengths podcast as well. Get signed up for that on any podcast platform. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. These, if you're listening live, these will be coming out. The edited versions coming out on, you can listen to the quick ones. And by all means, share them with those that you coach with. One, thank you for joining us today. If you're listening live, stay around for a little bit of the mid show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.